In this episode, I would like to introduce a musical concept when it comes to playing back audio files in sync. So that is using a new concept compared to the earlier episodes, and I call it music.xml. And in this document, we write musical words like arrangement, track, motif, quantize, tempo, time signature, loop length, and words like that. And we use not milliseconds, but quarter note, bars, and time units like that to make sure that everything we do is in sync with each other. And it's loop based, so we have audio files that are looped in sync with each other. And the result of this application, it's actually not controlled by any sensors at all, but just touch event on the buttons. But I think it is important to understand before we go to the next episode. All right, so in this application, we have buttons numbered, well, as we do in all the different episodes, but we haven't really used them that much. So number 1 plays drums, and I can turn it on and off. And number 2 plays the bass. And number 3, piano, some synth lead, and together okay, so that gives us some kind of Ableton-y-like setting where we can turn on and off loops. And that is described here as an arrangement with different tracks, and those tracks are looped. And as we did earlier when we had audio buffer source nodes playing in the application, we can have tracks playing an audio file. So we specify it with the src attribute and just tell the name of the file. And then we have some important things here. To understand how these files should loop, we need to have a tempo set here. And I recorded the loops in tempo 94, so that's why it's set to 94 here. And the time signature as well, for it to be able to relate to bars. And then I have loop length set to 16, which relates to these files being 16 bars long. So that's why it says 16. And then an attribute called change on next, set to 1 quarter note, which means that when I press a button, the change would happen on the next, quarter note. So it waits until the next quarter note in the music, and then it makes the change. And in this case, switches on or off a track. The toggling of the tracks is connected to the buttons with the word toggle 1 or toggle 2, toggle 3, and so forth. And you can add another 4 tracks and toggle them on and off using this method and using the numbers 5 to 8. When it toggles on or off, it will do it as fast as possible, like a mute button on a mixing console. If you don't use the word fade time, and you can set that, for example, like here, to a value in milliseconds. So if it's set to 250 milliseconds, then when it's unmuted, that will take 250 milliseconds until it reaches its full volume.